So we're welcoming back Stephanie Barger today from Canine Zen. She is an expert in dog behavior, and so many people have been enjoying watching you on this show. Stephanie, thank you so much for coming back today.
Of course. Of course. I love these. This is big fun for me.
It is a lot of fun. I really look forward to this too. It's just fun. I can't thank you enough because you're enlightening people with so much good advice. And now we're going to talk about Halloween. Halloween
Yes.
is meant to be scary in a fun way for people,
Hmm.
but it can be scary in a not so fun way for dogs.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if your dog goes nuts at Halloween, and we do have a video we did on My Dog is Afraid of Thunder, I will
Hmm.
link to that and I will also put it at the end of this one so people can find that too. I'm sure there's some crossover information, but now people are knocking at the door. Everybody's coming over. It's crazy time.
Hmm.
Your dog
Yes.
is not happy. What do you do?
First of all, you want to figure out what your dog is uncomfortable with. And that can be a number of things. Doorbells, that is not exclusive to Halloween, but your doorbell is going to be potentially ringing a lot more frequently that night. So if your dog has an issue with doorbells, you're going to want to bear that in mind. The costumes, these are things that sort of look like people, but not. So it's very confusing to your dog. Decorations, particularly the ones that move on their own, we find them very fun and great, but not so much for our dogs because they don't smell like they're alive. Strange noises, yelling and screaming people and kids, parties and gatherings, all of these things could be things that bother your dog. And so, what you're going to do to help your dog feel better about Halloween is going to depend on what those triggers are. Frequently, particularly if Halloween is just the big thing and it's about the costumes and the noises and people coming up and ringing the doorbell, it may be just easier to manage it. In which case, the easiest and best practice would be to provide a safe, quiet location in your home where the dog is not necessarily going to be hearing the doorbell, maybe playing some music or having a TV going. Don't take them to the door with you for sure. That is not going to help them at this stage. Possibly in later stages of training, you might start taking them to the door so that they can learn that the things on the other side of the door aren't the scary things, but that's not necessarily where you start. And if you are taking your dog to the door, you shouldn't be the one that's managing the handing out of the candy because you should be focusing only on your dog and someone else should be focusing on the kids. Okay.
Okay.
Alternatively, you could stay outside. Some places it's going to be more comfortable to do this than others, but you could stay outside with the treats and distribute them there. So there's no doorbell being rung. You could leave the treat bowl outside. This is going to depend on your neighborhood and how honest the kids that come around are. Then, of course, you can always turn your lights off and not be available for treats. It really just depends on what your preference level is, how drastically your dog reacts, because if your dog has that troublesome night where people are coming for several hours and ringing the doorbell, it doesn't stop when the doorbell stops. That it takes time for them to actually come down from that significant an event or series of events, and it can be days before your dog is back to normal. It's just like us going through a scary or traumatic experience. We're going to be more touchy for a period of time afterwards.
You advocate
Exactly.
medication for dogs if they have high anxiety around Halloween?
There are some safe and effective ways to keep your dog more calm and more comfortable, not just putting them in a quiet place, but that sound masking I talked about. Also, talking to your vet about medication, calming supplements, or other equipment. For example, some dogs will do well with a thunder shirt or the hormone, the brand is called Adaptil. All of these things can have the opposite effect, though, so you're going to want to monitor that and being sure that you're paying attention to whether or not it's working.
By masking sounds, you mean something like turning on music loud or
Yeah,
turning on
turning on the television, turning on music. Dogs love reggae, apparently, according to studies.
really?
So, yeah, and I would not be testing these things on Halloween night. I would be trying to figure out what is working better for your dog well before Halloween.
What specifically can a person do between now and then, those little steps?
Well, I'd make sure that you have whatever you're going to need on hand. If medication is the way you want to go, then I'd be reaching out to your vet now. If you want the calming supplements and you already know which ones work for your dog, then make sure that you have them on hand. If you don't know, then you should be really trying to figure out what's going to work, what is going to help them, and get those things on hand. Figure out what music they like playing. And this is all from the management perspective. If you are looking towards the training perspective, then you're going to be starting to desensitize them to doorbells, to people at the door. You might, if you have children in your life, you might ask them to dress up in their costumes. For example, if someone is going to be a witch, instead of putting on the whole witch costume, you put on maybe the hat, and have them run around and play and do things with the hat on, and then maybe another piece of the costume.
But at least if you've taken steps to make it a little more comfortable for them and for you.
Yes.
I would
Yes.
guess too that if you're doing the sound masking and you have your dog in a separate room as far away from the doorbell and the commotion as possible, if
Mhm.
it's at all possible, it would probably help to have another person in that room with the animal. Or
It can help, particularly if your dog's not fond of being separated from you. You're definitely going to need to have another person there. As long as they have things to do, they should be fine. Because not everybody has someone that could do that, right? There are a lot of people that live on their own. And so we want to make sure that there are other options as well. So making sure that they have something safe to play with, something safe to chew, comfy place to lay down, the masking is happening, and you're popping in there every once in a while because we all know there's lags in those trick-or-treaters, right? So use those opportunities to kind of give your dog a little bit of time with you.
and if you want to dress up your dog for Halloween,
Make sure they like it.
yeah,
Okay. All right. Don't just throw it on there. If they aren't happy with, the strange clothes, then I would avoid doing that.
I've been shocked at how my dogs, dachshunds in particular, love to get dressed up.
Yeah.
And my daughters had a couple of pugs, and those dogs love to get dressed up. And the minute you dress them, they're so proud of themselves and they're prancing around and so happy. And the minute you take the clothes off, it's like, I want those back again.
Yes. Yes. Some dogs are like that. Other dogs are like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah.
And then other dogs are really find it aversive. So you don't want to do that. And if your dog is more of the, okay, I can tolerate this, you also want to go slow, right? If they're not like, ooh, put that on me, you want to go slow, just like everything else. You want to, take your time and not bombard them and help them get used to it.
Very good. Well, now that we have mastered Halloween, we just need to go out and buy a bunch of candy that we will not give to our dogs
Nope.
because it's probably very toxic for our dogs. So
Especially the chocolate. Don't want to do that.
and enjoy Halloween, everybody. I hope that this has helped. Questions, ask them below. There's also lots of information on how to contact Stephanie if you would like to talk to her privately. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.